A gangster smashes a waiter's face into a table at a family diner, blood streaming as the young man hits the floor hard. Vincent, the Viper, Castellano, and his crew laugh while terrorizing the elderly owner, demanding $5,000 or they'll destroy everything she's built. But the quiet kitchen helper stepping out from behind the counter isn't just another employee. This is Jackie Chan himself. The gangster has no idea he just brutalized an innocent kid in front of a man who spent 50 years turning everyday objects into weapons of justice. While the thug threatens to burn down the diner, the martial arts legend removes his apron with that familiar calm smile. The terrified staff recognizes their savior and steps back, knowing these criminals picked the wrong restaurant. The gangster's crew keeps laughing, thinking they're dealing with some old dishwasher, but they're about to learn why legends never truly retire. What happens when you threaten a family in front of Jackie Chan? Will the gangster survive discovering that some kitchen helpers know 1,000 ways to fight? What happened next would terrorize the Viper for the rest of his pathetic existence. Before we jump back and tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The brass bell above the Golden Dragon Diner's front door chimed as Maria Santos turned the key at exactly 6 a.m., just as she had every morning for the past 5 years. At 68, her arthritic fingers moved slower than they once did, but her routine never wavered. Coffee first, then lights, then the careful ritual of transforming her sanctuary from empty shell into beating heart. "Morning, Antonio," she whispered to the faded photograph behind the register, her late husband's kind eyes watching over the domain they'd built together. The walls told their story in dozens of pictures, 3 generations of families sharing birthdays, anniversaries, quiet Tuesday dinners that somehow became traditions. The coffee maker gurgled to life as Maria surveyed her kingdom. 45 years in this spot, watching Chinatown change around them while the Golden Dragon remained constant. The red vinyl booths bore the gentle wear of countless conversations, the formica tables scarred by decades of silverware and elbows, the checkered linoleum floor polished smooth by millions of footsteps. Lucy Wong arrived at 6:30 sharp, her 20 years of service evident in the way she moved through the space without conscious thought. "Morning, Maria," Mrs. Chen called. "She wants her usual table ready for the anniversary lunch." "Table 6. Of course." Maria smiled, remembering the shy young couple who'd shared their first date in that corner booth 30 years ago. Now they brought their grandchildren. Bobby Martinez burst through the back door at 7 o'clock, apologizing before he'd even removed his jacket. Sorry, Mom had a rough night with her blood sugar. I've got her stabilized, but Mijo breathed." Maria's weathered hand found his shoulder. At 22, Bobby carried the weight of the world in his earnest brown eyes, working double shifts to cover his mother's medical bills while maintaining his business degree at SF State. Family comes first. Always. The bell chimed again at 7:15. Charlie entered quietly, as he had every morning for 3 months. Mid-50s, unremarkable in his simple kitchen uniform, he moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost unconscious. Kind eyes missed nothing while he said little, always polite, always grateful for the work. "Morning, Charlie," Maria called out, in Spanish, knowing he preferred it. "Buenos dias, Señora Santos." His accent was careful but warm. "The delivery should arrive soon. I'll handle the prep." By 7:30, the breakfast rush began. 3 generations of the Yamamoto family claimed their regular booth: grandmother, parents, and twin toddlers who drew on napkins while their elders discussed the day ahead. Mr. Petrov settled at the counter with his Russian newspaper and black coffee, nodding respectfully to Maria as he had for 15 years. Construction crews grabbed coffee and breakfast burritos, their hard hats marking them as working men who understood the value of $1 and a good meal. Charlie worked in the background, moving heavy boxes with surprising ease, restocking supplies with methodical efficiency. Bobby noticed how the quiet man's eyes tracked every customer, every conversation, filing away details like a scholar studying a beloved text. The morning rhythm felt eternal, sacred. Maria counted yesterday's receipts while watching her surrogate family work together, each playing their part in the daily miracle of community. But she couldn't shake the worry gnawing at her stomach. The bills were mounting, the margins growing thinner, and yesterday Lucy had mentioned hearing rumors about protection problems hitting other Chinatown businesses as the breakfast rush. Wound down at 11 o'clock, Charlie swept quietly near the register, overhearing Bobby tell Lucy about his mother's latest medical bills. The specialist wants to try a new treatment, but insurance won't cover it. Bobby's voice carried the strain of someone trying to solve impossible mathematics. Maria's expression tightened as she studied the receipts. Charlie's eyes reflected something deeper than casual interest. The look of a man filing away important information for reasons others couldn't yet understand. The black Cadillac Escalade's chrome gleamed like a predator's teeth as it pulled up outside the Golden Dragon at 11:30 a.m. Vincent, Vinny the Viper, Castellano emerged first, his expensive charcoal suit impeccable despite the morning fog. At 42, he carried himself with the casual arrogance of a man accustomed to getting his way through fear and money. Tommy Ricci and Danny, the Hammer, Kowalski flanked him like shadows. Tommy nervous and thin, constantly checking his phone. Danny massive and silent, his dead blue eyes scanning for threats out of habit. All three wore suits that couldn't quite hide the shoulder holsters beneath. The diner's atmosphere shifted the moment they entered. Conversations quieted. Customers sensed danger the way animals smell smoke before seeing fire. Well, Vinny's voice carried false warmth as he surveyed the homey interior. What a charming little place. Very family-oriented. Maria emerged from behind the register, her instincts honed by 45 years of reading people. She'd seen men like this before, polished predators who smiled while they devoured. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Vincent Castellano. He extended a manicured hand she didn't take. "I represent certain business interests in the neighborhood. Security concerns, you might say." Lucy positioned herself protectively near Maria while Bobby's hands clenched into fists behind the counter. Charlie watched from the kitchen doorway, his mild eyes cataloging everything. How Vinny controlled the room's center, how Tommy blocked the front exit, how Danny's right hand stayed near his jacket. "You see, Mrs. Santos. Mrs. Santos, Chinatown's changing, becoming dangerous. Businesses need protection these days." Vinny's smile never reached his gray eyes. "For $5,000 a month, my associates and I ensure nothing unfortunate happens to your lovely establishment." The number hit Maria like a physical blow. $5,000 might as well have been $5 million. "Sir, I don't have that kind of money." "Of course you don't. Yet." Vinny adjusted his gold watch, a gesture both casual and threatening. "But accidents happen, don't they? Kitchen fires, broken windows, customers getting discouraged from visiting. Terrible for business." Charlie noted how Danny favored his left leg, old injury, probably knee. Tommy's tell when nervous, touching his nose. Vinny's blind spot when he turned right, compensating for something. Information filed away with professional precision. "I run an honest business." Maria's voice carried steel despite her trembling hands. "I've never had trouble before." "Before, sweetheart, you didn't have my protection. The Golden Palace down the street? They thought they could handle things alone too. Had to close last month. Shame, really. 30 years of family tradition, gone." Vinny's mask slipped slightly, revealing the predator beneath. "Kim's Market pays $3,000 monthly now. Much more reasonable than losing everything." Lucy stepped closer to Maria, her loyalty evident. Bobby's face flushed red, but Lucy's warning hand on his arm kept him from speaking. "What if I call the police?" Maria asked quietly. Vinny's laugh was genuinely amused. "Please do. Detective Morrison's a personal friend. Lovely man, very understanding about neighborhood security arrangements." He pulled out a business card with only a phone number. "You seem like a smart woman, Mrs. Santos. Smart enough to recognize a good deal." The card felt heavy in Maria's palm, weighted with implications and threats. "I'll need some time to think," she managed. "Of course. 48 hours should be plenty." Vinny straightened his tie with practiced nonchalance. "This neighborhood's changing, sweetheart. Best to change with it." As they moved toward the door, Danny's massive frame filled the doorway like a warning. Tommy tucked his phone away, having completed whatever report he'd been typing. Vinny paused at the threshold, his gray eyes sweeping the diner one final time. "Beautiful place," he said softly. "Be a real shame if anything happened to it." The Escalade pulled away, leaving behind the lingering scent of expensive cologne and implied violence. Maria's hands shook as she poured herself coffee, the simple act requiring all her concentration. "Should I call the police?" Bobby asked, his young voice tight with anger. Lucy shook her head sadly. "Wouldn't help me, Joe. Men like that, they own pieces of everything." Charlie emerged from the kitchen with a concerned expression, approaching Maria with gentle respect. "Are you all right, Senora? Just some business matters." Maria tried to smile, but her voice wavered. "Nothing to worry about." But Charlie's kind eyes suggested he understood exactly what kind of business had just walked through their door. The lunch rush began immediately after Vinny's departure, but the Golden Dragon's usual warmth felt strained. Regular customers sensed the tension without understanding its source, conversations more subdued, laughter more forced. Maria moved through her routine like a woman underwater, every motion requiring conscious effort. Charlie helped serve tables, his presence oddly comforting. As he refilled coffee cups and cleared plates with quiet efficiency, his offer to help hadn't been questioned. Crisis made family of everyone willing to contribute. "What did they want?" Lucy asked during a brief lull, her voice carefully low. "Money we don't have for protection we don't need," Maria replied, showing Lucy the business card. Just a phone number, no name, no address. Professional intimidation distilled to its essence. Bobby leaned closer, studying the card like it might reveal hidden weaknesses. "How much?" 5,000. Monthly. The number hung in the air like smoke. Bobby's face went pale as he calculated the impossibility. Lucy's expression hardened with 20 years of watching the neighborhood change, seeing good businesses disappear. One by one, Charlie organized napkin dispensers nearby, listening without appearing to eavesdrop. His movements remained fluid, economical, but something in his posture suggested deeper attention. "Golden Palace really closed?" Bobby asked. "Last month," Lucy confirmed. "Mrs. Wu said it was family reasons, but her daughter told me they couldn't afford to stay open. Mysterious break-ins, suppliers suddenly unreliable, customers getting hassled in the parking lot." During the 2 p.m. lull, Maria spread the diner's financial records across table 6, the harsh mathematics of survival laid bare. Lucy and Bobby sat with her, family by choice rather than blood, sharing the burden of impossible decisions. "Rent is $4,200, Maria began, her voice clinical to maintain control. "Utilities run about $800. Food costs average $3,500, depending on the season. Payroll is $6,200 between all of us." Bobby did the arithmetic quickly. "Even if we had perfect months, 5,000 would bankrupt us in 8 weeks. Could we get a loan?" Lucy suggested without conviction. Maria shook her head. "Credit's been maxed since Antonio's treatments. Banks don't loan money to people who can't pay it back." Charlie restocked the walk-in cooler, his presence unobtrusive but somehow reassuring. He moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who understood restaurant operations, anticipating needs before they became problems. "What about your son?" Bobby asked. "Robert's struggling with his own place in Sacramento. I won't ask him to choose between his family and mine." Maria's pride was evident even in crisis. "This is my responsibility." "Our responsibility," Lucy corrected firmly. "I've got 8,000 in savings." "It's not much, but no." Maria's voice brooked no argument. "You've already given this place 20 years of your life. I won't take your security too." Bobby straightened with sudden determination. "We could all take pay cuts. I don't need much, just enough for Mom's basic medications. We could make it work." The loyalty in his young voice nearly broke Maria's composure. At 22, Bobby should be thinking about his future, not sacrificing it for an old woman's dream. Charlie approached quietly as Maria updated the books, his gentle presence drawing her attention. "Excuse me, Senora Santos. The men earlier, they were asking for money." Maria hesitated, then nodded. "Protection money. 5,000 monthly, or..." She gestured helplessly. Charlie's expression remained calm, but something shifted behind his kind eyes. "I've seen this before, in other neighborhoods. Once they start, it only gets worse. What choice do I have? I can't pay, but I can't lose this place either. It's all I have left of Antonio." "Sometimes," Charlie said quietly, his voice carrying unexpected weight, "standing up to bullies is the only choice that matters, even when it seems impossible." The words hung between them, simple yet profound. Maria looked at this quiet man who'd become part of their family in just 3 months, wondering why his gentle observation felt like a promise. 2 days, she murmured, studying the business card again. 48 hours to decide whether to fight or surrender. Charlie nodded thoughtfully, returning to his duties with the same quiet efficiency. But Maria couldn't shake the feeling that his calm acceptance masked something deeper, as if her decision mattered to him in ways she couldn't yet understand. Point 2. Days later, the Golden Dragon bustled with Friday evening energy. Families celebrated small victories, a child's good report card, a promotion at work, the simple blessing of being together. The Yamamoto grandparents shared stories with their twin grandchildren while the parents enjoyed rare moments of adult conversation. Young professionals grabbed quick dinners between demanding jobs and uncertain futures. Elderly couples stretched their social security checks to afford date nights that reminded them of better times. The warm glow of community felt precious, fragile, worth protecting. Maria moved through the dinner service with forced normalcy, but Lucy noticed the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands trembled slightly when she thought no one was watching. Bobby served tables with extra attention, as if excellent service could somehow solve unsolvable problems. Charlie worked quietly in the kitchen, his presence reassuring in its consistency. Whatever storm was coming, he remained calm, prepared, unshakable. At 6:45 p.m., the black Escalade returned. This time, Vinny brought 6 men. Tommy and Danny flanked him as before, but 3 new faces suggested escalation. Jerome Banks, a cold-eyed enforcer. Miguel Santos, no relation to Maria, but carrying her name like an insult. Frank DeMarco, Vinny's cousin, eager to prove family loyalty. And Kurt Weber, young and hungry, desperate to make his bones in the organization. The diner's atmosphere shifted instantly. Conversations died. Children sensed adult fear and moved closer to their parents. The elderly couple at table 4 quietly requested their check. Evening, Mrs. Santos. Vinny's voice carried false cheer. I hope you've had time to consider our discussion. Maria stood behind the register, dignity intact despite her fear. I can't pay what you're asking. Can't. Vinny's tone sharpened. Or won't. The diner barely breaks even. $5,000 would close us in 2 months. Then maybe it's time to consider new ownership. I know several investors who'd love a piece of authentic Chinatown charm. Vinny's smile was all teeth, no warmth. Of course, they'd need the current management to move on. Bobby stepped forward. From table 8, his young face flushed with righteous anger. This is a family restaurant. People come here to feel safe. The 6 enforcers shifted position instinctively, surrounding the young man like wolves scenting weakness. Vinny studied Bobby with the clinical interest of a predator evaluating prey. And who might you be, kid? Bobby Martinez. I work here. His voice carried more courage than his trembling hands suggested. Bobby Martinez, Vinny repeated, tasting the name. You think you're protecting somebody, Bobby? I think you should lower your voice. There are families here, children. Children need to learn respect, Vinny interrupted, his mask finally slipping. Maybe you need to learn respect too. The violence happened with shocking suddenness. Vinny grabbed Bobby's shirt front with practiced efficiency, using his weight and leverage to slam the young man's face into the nearest table with sickening force. The crack of Bobby's nose breaking echoed through the sudden silence. Blood flowed immediately, bright red against the white formica. Bobby gasped, hands instinctively covering his shattered nose as more blood streamed between his fingers. Screams erupted throughout the diner. The Yamamoto children began crying. Their parents herded them toward the exit while other customers fled in panic, abandoning half-eaten meals and unpaid checks. Chair legs scraped against linoleum as people scrambled for safety. Stop, Maria's voice broke with anguish. Please, he's just a boy. Boys need to learn their place, Vinny snarled, his civilized facade completely abandoned. Blood spattered his expensive suit, but he seemed energized by the violence. Just like old women. Need to learn theirs. Bobby collapsed into a booth, napkins pressed against his ruined face, blood soaking through white paper like spreading ink. His eyes were already swelling shut, his breathing ragged through his broken nose. The diner emptied except for staff and predators. Charlie emerged from the kitchen, still wearing his apron, taking in the scene with eyes that missed nothing. Bobby's injuries, Maria's tears, the 6 men positioned like pieces on a chessboard. "I think," Charlie said quietly, removing his apron with deliberate care, "you gentlemen should leave now." Vinny's crew burst into laughter. Kurt Weber, eager to impress, stepped forward with theatrical menace. "What's the dishwasher going to do about it?" Charlie folded his apron neatly, setting it on the counter with the same methodical precision he brought to every task. When he looked up, something fundamental had changed in his mild brown eyes. "I'm going to ask politely," Charlie said, his voice carrying new authority. Once, the laughter died as 6 dangerous men suddenly realized the quiet kitchen helper wasn't what he seemed. Kurt Weber stepped forward with the swaggering confidence of youth, his hand moving toward the bulge beneath his jacket. At 29, he was the newest addition to Vinny's crew, desperate to prove his worth through violence. The quiet kitchen helper looked like an easy target, soft, middle-aged, probably never thrown a punch in his life. That assumption lasted exactly 3 seconds. Charlie moved like liquid lightning, his hand shooting out to catch Kurt's wrist before the gun cleared leather. The grip was precise, controlled, devastating. Kurt found himself airborne, his momentum redirected with surgical precision, sliding across table 12 into the booth with a crash that rattled dishes. "Sorry," Charlie said automatically, his voice carrying genuine regret even as he shifted position. Jerome Banks reached for his weapon, but Charlie was already moving. A salt shaker flew through the air with impossible accuracy, striking Jerome's eyes and temporarily blinding him. Before the big man could recover, a pepper shaker caught his gun hand, numbing his fingers and sending the pistol clattering across the floor. Tommy Ricci fumbled for his piece, but Charlie had dropped beneath table level, sliding under the furniture like a ghost. He emerged behind Danny, the hammer, using a dining chair to sweep the massive man's legs. Danny's old knee injury betrayed him, sending him crashing into the wall with enough force to crack the plaster. "Excuse me," Charlie murmured, stepping over Danny's groaning form. Miguel Santos drew a knife, its blade gleaming under the fluorescent lights. But Charlie had already grabbed a napkin dispenser from the nearest table, using it as both shield and weapon. The stainless steel deflected Miguel's thrust while Charlie's counterattack struck the man's wrist with precise force, sending the knife spinning away. Frank DeMarco managed to clear his gun, but Charlie was in motion, kicking a bus tub filled with dirty dishes. Plates and glasses exploded outward in a ceramic storm, forcing Frank to shield his face. In that moment of distraction, Charlie closed the distance, using a coat rack like a quarterstaff to disarm the startled gunman. The entire sequence took less than 90 seconds. 6 armed men lay scattered around the diner, groaning but conscious, their weapons out of reach. Not one had been seriously injured, but all were thoroughly neutralized. Lucy stood frozen behind the register, her eyes wide with recognition and disbelief. "Jackie," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Jackie Chan." The name hung in the air like an electric charge. Charlie, no, Jackie, paused in his fluid movements, his cover blown by his own instincts to protect the innocent. The mild-mannered kitchen helper was gone, replaced by a legend who had spent 50 years perfecting the art of turning everyday objects into instruments of justice. Vinny backed toward the door, his face pale beneath his olive complexion. His hand shook as he drew his own pistol, the barrel wavering between Jackie and the diner's terrified staff. "This isn't over," Vinny snarled, his earlier confidence shattered like his crew's arrogance. "You have no idea who you're fucking with, movie star." "Language," Jackie said mildly, his posture relaxed despite the gun pointed at his chest. There might be children listening. The absurdity of the statement, a martial arts legend more concerned about profanity than pistols, seemed to break something in Vinny's composure. His gray eyes darted between Jackie and his scattered crew, calculating odds that no longer favored him. "Last chance to leave peacefully," Jackie offered, his voice carrying the same gentle authority he'd used. "To ask them to lower their voices. I'd prefer not to embarrass you further." Vinny's finger tightened on the trigger, but something in Jackie's calm certainty made him hesitate. This wasn't fear or bravado. This was a man who had faced down countless opponents and emerged victorious. Every time. "This isn't over," Vinny repeated, backing through the door with his weapon still trained on Jackie. You just signed everyone's death warrant. The Escalade's engine roared to life as Vinny's crew limped toward their escape, leaving behind a diner transformed from sanctuary to battlefield, and a secret that could no longer be hidden, the Golden Dragon fell silent except for the gentle hiss of the coffee maker and Bobby's labored breathing. Jackie moved immediately to the injured young man, his transformation from humble kitchen helper to concerned caregiver as natural as breathing. "Let me see," Jackie said softly, his hands gentle as he examined Bobby's face. Decades of stunt work had taught him to assess injuries quickly and accurately. "The nose is broken, but cleanly. You'll heal perfectly with proper care." Maria hurried over with a dish towel filled with ice, her maternal instincts overriding her shock. "Is he going to be okay?" "He'll be fine," Jackie assured her, carefully positioning the ice pack. "Looks worse than it is. Head wounds always bleed dramatically." "Bobby, tilt your head forward slightly." "That's it." Bobby tried to speak through swollen lips, but Jackie raised a hand. "Rest. No talking for a few minutes." Lucy approached slowly, as if viewing a mirage that might disappear. "You're really? I mean, you're actually Jackie Chan." The Jackie Chan. Jackie's expression carried a mixture of resignation and gentle humor. "Guilty as charged. Though I prefer Charlie when I'm washing dishes." "But why?" Maria asked, settling beside Bobby to monitor his condition. "Why were you working here?" Jackie began cleaning the blood from Bobby's face with practiced efficiency, his movements precise and caring. "I was researching a role about working-class heroes. Wanted to understand what real courage looks like in everyday life." He paused, meeting Maria's eyes. "I found it the first day I walked through your door." 3 months, Lucy calculated aloud. "You've been here 3 months, and we never." "You saw Charlie, a man who needed work and wanted to help." "That's exactly what I hoped for." Jackie checked Bobby's pupils for signs of concussion, finding none. "I've played heroes for 50 years, but I wanted to meet real ones." Maria touched Jackie's shoulder gently. "You could have left. After those men came, you could have walked away." "Family doesn't abandon family," Jackie replied simply, the words carrying weight earned through shared morning shifts and quiet conversations over coffee. "This place, these people, you became important to me." Bobby managed a weak smile through his injuries. "I can't believe I got beat up in front of Jackie Chan." "You stood up to 6 armed criminals to protect others," Jackie corrected firmly. "That's not getting beat up, that's being a hero. I just had better training." The sound of approaching sirens made Jackie move quickly, checking on Vinny's scattered crew. Each man was conscious but subdued, their weapons safely out of reach. "They'll be fine," he announced. "Bruised egos more than bruised bodies." "Should we tell the police what really happened?" Lucy asked. Jackie shook his head, helping Jerome Banks sit up properly. "Kitchen accident." Bobby slipped carrying a tray, hit his face on the table. "These gentlemen were good Samaritans who stayed to help." "But," Maria began. "Trust me," Jackie said quietly. "Some truths cause more problems than they solve." As paramedics entered to treat Bobby's injuries, Jackie noticed Vinny's Escalade parked across the street. The crime boss sat in the passenger seat, cell phone pressed to his ear, his face visible in the streetlight's glow. Planning his next move, Detective Ray Morrison arrived with the patrol units, his questions perfunctory and his interest minimal. The kitchen accident story held up under casual scrutiny, especially with Vinny's crew eager to avoid police attention. "Nasty fall," Morrison observed, studying Bobby's injuries with professional detachment. "Lucky these folks were here to help." "Very lucky," Jackie agreed, his mild tone masking deeper knowledge. As the police finished their paperwork and the crew departed, Jackie helped clean the diner, restoring order to the chaos. But through the front window, the Escalade remained in position, a predator waiting for the right moment to strike again. The secret was out. The stakes had escalated. And across the street, Vincent Castellano was making phone calls that would transform this neighborhood dispute into something far more dangerous. Jackie folded his blood-stained apron, knowing his quiet days of observation were over. The real fight was just beginning. The Viper's den pulsed with bass-heavy music and the clink of expensive glasses, but Vincent Castellano felt none of the usual satisfaction his nightclub provided. Upstairs in his private office, ice pressed against his bruised ego. He stared at surveillance photos scattered across his mahogany desk. Jackie fucking Chan, he muttered, the words tasting like poison. Detective Ray Morrison sat across from him, 20 years of corruption etched into his weathered face. You picked the wrong kitchen to rob, Vinny. I didn't pick anything. He was already there, watching me. Vinny's gray eyes studied the photos. Jackie entering the dry cleaner 2 blocks from his money laundering operation, Jackie working at the auto shop where his crew serviced their vehicles, Jackie delivering produce to 3 businesses under his protection. Son of a bitch has been mapping my entire operation, Vinny continued, his voice cold with realization. 3 months of surveillance, and I never saw it coming. Morrison shifted uncomfortably. The feds have been sniffing around organized crime for 8 months, building cases, turning informants. And you didn't think to mention this. Vinny's tone carried lethal undertones. I told you to keep things quiet, avoid attention. Instead, you start a war with a movie star in a family restaurant. Vinny swept the photos aside, revealing a detailed map of Chinatown marked with red pins. Each pin represented a business he controlled, a network built through careful intimidation and strategic violence. The Golden Dragon sat at the center, unmarked but crucial. He's not just some actor playing dress-up, Vinny said, studying Jackie's surveillance patterns. This is systematic intelligence gathering. Professional level. FBI. Consultant. Morrison confirmed reluctantly. They recruited him for community access. Who's going to suspect Jackie Chan of being a federal informant? Vinny's laugh held no humor. A legend playing hero. Well, let's see how legendary he feels when real consequences start falling on innocent people. He reached for his secure phone, scrolling through contacts that included corrupt officials, bent cops, and professional killers. Jackie Chan wants to play in the real world? Time to show him the real world plays for keeps. The war was escalating, and family was about to become a liability. Dawn light filtered through the Golden Dragon's windows as Jackie arrived at 7 a.m., carrying a leather duffel bag instead of his usual work clothes. The familiar routine felt different now, charged with finality and unspoken farewells. Maria looked up from the coffee machine, her eyes red from a sleepless night. You're leaving? It wasn't a question. Jackie nodded, setting his bag by the door. I've compromised your safety. Vinny will escalate, and I can't let you pay for my choices. Lucy arrived early, taking in the scene with immediate understanding. Bobby limped in behind her, his face swollen but determined. You can't just run, he protested through puffy lips. I'm not running. I'm protecting you. Jackie showed them his FBI credentials, the weight of official responsibility evident. The case isn't complete. If I stay, Vinny will use you against me. Maria pressed a St. Christopher medal into his palm, her fingers lingering. For protection, Mijo, I'll finish this properly, Jackie promised. Through legal channels. As he headed for the restroom, black vans surrounded the building. Professional, silent, efficient. Bobby disappeared from the alley while bussing tables. Maria vanished while unlocking the front door. Lucy's scream brought Jackie running. But the diner was empty except for a ringing cell phone on the counter. Vinny's voice was ice cold. Midnight. Pier 47. Come alone, or they die. The metal felt heavy in Jackie's palm as 12 hours became a countdown to war. The warehouse district at Pier 47 crouched in fog like a sleeping beast, its industrial maze of buildings and shipping containers creating perfect hunting grounds for predators. Jackie approached on foot at 11:30 p.m., his duffel bag slung over one shoulder. Every sense alert to the tactical nightmare Vinny had chosen. The complex stretched across 3 acres of cracked asphalt and rusted metal, a graveyard of maritime commerce where honest work ended and criminal enterprise began. Overhead cranes stood like mechanical vultures against the night sky, their shadows creating pools of deeper darkness between the sodium lights. Jackie's movie-trained eye cataloged the environment automatically. Shipping containers stacked 3. High provided elevation and cover. Forklift staging areas offered mobile weapons and barriers. The main warehouse's loading docks created natural choke points, while smaller outbuildings provided multiple escape routes or ambush positions. His phone buzzed. Agent Sullivan's text was terse. ETA 20 minutes. Do not engage until backup arrives. Jackie typed back, family can't wait for bureaucracy. He moved through the shadows with practiced stealth, decades of stunt choreography translating into real-world infiltration skills. Every step was calculated, every breath controlled. The fog muffled sound and limited visibility to 50 yards, advantageous for one man against many. If that man knew how to use concealment, the main warehouse loomed ahead, its corrugated walls scarred by years of neglect. Light leaked through high windows, casting geometric patterns on the ground. Jackie could hear voices inside, multiple men, relaxed conversation punctuated by nervous laughter. Vinny's crew, confident in their numbers and position. Jackie circled the building, noting guard positions and entry points. Two men by the loading dock, smoking cigarettes and checking their phones. Another pair patrolling the perimeter with casual arrogance. They expected a movie star, not a predator. Exactly midnight. Jackie walked through the main entrance. The warehouse interior opened into a cavern of concrete and steel, lit by harsh work lights that created dramatic shadows between towering storage racks. Vinny waited in the center of the space like a spider in his web, surrounded by 14 men positioned around the perimeter, the 6 from the diner, now nursing bruises and wounded pride, plus 8 additional enforcers borrowed from partner organizations. Bobby and Maria sat tied to metal chairs 20 feet behind Vinny, both conscious but showing signs of rough treatment. Maria's silver hair was disheveled, her dress torn at the shoulder. Bobby's facial injuries had darkened into spectacular bruises, but his eyes burned with defiant anger. "Punctual," Vinny called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. "I appreciate that in a man." Jackie studied the tactical situation while maintaining his approach. 14 armed opponents, multiple levels of elevation from the storage racks, concrete walls that would contain ricochets, and innocent hostages in the kill zone. The mathematics were grim. "Let them go, Vinny. This is between us." "Is it?" Vinny's laugh was genuinely amused. "You cost me respect, Sean. My partners are asking questions. My crew doubts my authority. That old woman and the kid are the price of restoring my reputation." Jackie stopped 30 feet away, close enough to see the fear in Maria's eyes, the protective fury in Bobby's battered face. "What do you want?" "I want you on your knees, begging for their lives. I want every man here to see the great Jackie Chan broken and helpless. Then maybe, I'll kill you quick instead of slow." Jackie slowly reached into his duffel bag, every gun in the warehouse tracking his movement. "I brought you something." His hand emerged holding the Golden Dragon's kitchen apron, the simple white cloth stained with Bobby's blood from their first encounter. "You forgot this," Jackie said mildly, the incongruity of the gesture catching everyone off guard for a crucial heartbeat. That heartbeat was all he needed. Jackie dove behind a shipping container as gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes strobing like deadly lightning in the warehouse's shadows. Bullets sparked off steel and concrete, the echoes creating a symphony of violence that transformed the industrial space into a war zone. But where Vinny's crew saw obstacles, Jackie saw opportunities. He rolled beneath a parked forklift as 3 men converged on his position, their coordination sloppy in their eagerness for glory. The forklift's hydraulic system became his first weapon. A quick adjustment to the controls sent the vehicle lurching forward with its forks extended, forcing the gunman to scatter. "Sorry," Jackie called out automatically as one enforcer dove aside, his apology carrying genuine regret even as he pressed his advantage. The warehouse's overhead crane system offered his next move. Jackie swung up onto the suspended chains with acrobatic precision, using them like jungle vines to travel above his opponent's sight lines. From his elevated position, he could see the entire tactical situation, and Bobby and Maria, still tied to their chairs but alert and unharmed. Jerome Banks spotted him first, raising his pistol toward the ceiling. Jackie was already moving, the chains becoming pendulums as he swung in a wide arc, his feet connecting with Jerome's chest in a perfectly timed aerial kick. The impact sent the big man sliding across the polished concrete into a stack of cardboard boxes. "Excuse me," Jackie said as he landed, immediately rolling to avoid return fire. The warehouse's conveyor belt system provided his next advantage. Jackie activated the machinery with a flying kick to the control panel, sending empty pallets racing along the elevated tracks. Miguel Santos had to flatten himself against a support pillar as wooden platforms whistled past his head. Tommy Ricci and Frank DeMarco tried to flank him from opposite sides, but Jackie had already spotted the perfect tool, a massive roll of industrial plastic wrap mounted on a wheeled dispenser. He kicked the dispenser into motion, the clear film unrolling in a translucent wall that temporarily blinded his attackers while he repositioned. Coming through, Jackie announced cheerfully as he slid under the conveyor belt, emerging behind. The confused gunman, Danny the Hammer Kowalski, charged with brutal directness, relying on size and intimidation. But Jackie had noted the man's weak knee during their first encounter. A precisely placed sweep sent the massive enforcer crashing into a tower of stacked tires, which collapsed around him in a rubber avalanche. Kurt Weber, desperate to redeem himself after the diner humiliation, emptied his clip in Jackie's general direction. The wild spray forced workers in nearby buildings to duck for cover, but Jackie was no longer where Weber was shooting. Instead, he'd used the support beams like playground equipment, swinging hand over hand to drop behind the panicking gunman. A industrial-sized roll of duct tape, applied with martial arts precision, left Weber thoroughly immobilized and questioning his career choices. The remaining enforcers regrouped near Vinny's position, their initial confidence eroded by watching their colleagues defeated by office supplies and construction equipment. Jackie had eliminated 8 of 14 opponents without seriously injuring anyone, a tactical masterpiece of creative, non-lethal combat. But Vinny was backing toward Bobby and Maria, his own pistol now drawn and trained on the hostages. "Enough games, Chon." Vinny's voice cracked with fury and desperation. "One more step and the old lady dies." Jackie froze 20 feet away, his hands visible and empty. Around him, the warehouse looked like a tornado had struck, scattered equipment, groaning criminals, and the acrid smell of gunpowder mixing with industrial oils. "You're right," Jackie said calmly, raising his hands in apparent surrender. "The games are over." But his mild tone carried a weight that made Vinny's remaining crew exchange nervous glances. Legends didn't surrender, they simply changed tactics. Outside, the distant sound of approaching sirens suggested the cavalry was finally coming. But would they arrive in time? Jackie walked forward with his hands raised, each step deliberate and measured. Vinny's gun tracked his movement, while the 6 remaining enforcers formed a loose perimeter, their weapons trained on the approaching legend. "That's far enough," Vinny snarled when Jackie reached 10 feet from the hostages. Sweat beaded on the crime boss's forehead despite the warehouse's chill. "On your knees." "Let them go first," Jackie replied calmly. "You want me humiliated? Fine, but they're innocent." Bobby struggled against his bonds, blood from his reopened facial wounds making his restraint slippery. "Don't do it, Jackie. He'll kill us anyway." "Smart kid," Vinny agreed, pressing his gun's barrel against Maria's temple. The elderly woman closed her eyes, lips moving in silent prayer, but not smart enough to keep his mouth shut. Jackie slowly lowered himself to one knee, his expression showing genuine regret. "I'm sorry I brought this to your family, Maria. Sorry I couldn't protect you both." "You already did, Mijo," Maria whispered, her voice steady despite the gun at her head. "You gave us back our faith in heroes." The moment stretched taut as violin strings. Vinny savored his victory, finally seeing the great Jackie Chan broken and submissive. His crew relaxed slightly, believing the threat neutralized. That's when the flashbangs detonated. The FBI tactical teams stormed through every entrance simultaneously, their coordinated assault turning the warehouse into a strobe-lit hellscape of confusion and shouting. The flashbangs had been precisely placed to avoid the hostage area, while maximizing disorientation among the criminals. In the chaos, Jackie moved. His apparent surrender had been positioning, placing him within striking distance of both hostages and their captor. As Vinny spun toward the federal agents, temporarily blinded and deafened, Jackie's training took over. A precise nerve strike to Vinny's wrist numbed his gun hand. The weapon clattered away as Jackie rolled Maria's chair backward, away from immediate danger. Tommy Ricci, disoriented but still armed, swung his pistol toward Bobby. Jackie intercepted with a chair leg, the impact sending Tommy's shot wide. Frank DeMarco tried to use the confusion to escape, but Jackie caught him with a storage strap, using the man's momentum to slam him into a concrete pillar. The remaining enforcers surrendered as red laser dots danced across their chests. Clear. Agent Patricia Sullivan's voice cut through the diminishing chaos. Hostages secure. Jackie untied Bobby first, the young man's hands shaking from adrenaline and relief. "You came," Bobby gasped. "You actually came back. I told you, family doesn't abandon family." Jackie moved to Maria, checking her for injuries while FBI agents secured the crime scene. "Are you hurt?" "Just my pride," Maria replied, accepting his help to stand. A grandmother shouldn't need rescuing by a movie star. A movie star shouldn't need rescuing by the FBI, Jackie countered with gentle humor, but as Agent Sullivan coordinated. "Prisoner processing." Her expression remained grim. "We got 6 of them, but Vinny's not here." Jackie's blood chilled. In the confusion of flashbangs and tactical assault, he'd lost track of the crime boss. A quick scan of the warehouse confirmed Sullivan's assessment. Vincent Castellano had vanished like smoke. Tommy Ricci, nursing a dislocated shoulder, laughed bitterly from his prone position. "You think this is over? Vinny's already gone, and he took insurance with him." "What insurance?" Sullivan demanded. "Check your precious civilians, Agent. Count them real careful." Jackie's heart hammered as he performed a rapid head count. Bobby, bruised but standing. Maria, shaken but unharmed. Sullivan and her tactical team, professional and efficient. Then, the horrible truth hit him. "Where's Maria?" he asked Bobby urgently. "Right there." Bobby pointed in confusion, but Jackie was already moving, his enhanced hearing catching the sound of a vehicle starting in the distance. Through the warehouse's high windows, he glimpsed the Escalade's taillights disappearing into the fog. Vinny had escaped with the wrong Maria, but he had Maria nonetheless. The real fight was just beginning. The FBI Mobile Command Center hummed. With urgent activity in the warehouse parking lot, banks of monitors displaying surveillance feeds and tactical maps, while agents coordinated the largest organized crime bust in San Francisco's recent history. But Jackie felt none of the satisfaction that should have accompanied such a victory. Maria was still out there, still in danger, still paying the price for his choices. Agent Patricia Sullivan spread aerial photographs across the command table, her auburn hair escaping its professional style as she worked. "We've got eyes on 3 possible safe houses, 2 boat slips at different marinas, and 1 private airfield in Napa County." Bobby pressed an ice pack against his swollen face while studying the photos with determined intensity. "What about his nightclub? The Viper's Den?" "First place we hit," Sullivan replied. "Empty except for staff who claim they haven't seen Vinny in hours. Either they're lying, or he knew we were coming." Jackie examined surveillance photos of Vinny's Marin County estate. 12 acres of manicured grounds surrounded by high walls, multiple buildings, and sightlines that favor defenders. This one, if he's planning an extended standoff, he'll want his fortress. "We can't get a warrant based on current evidence," Sullivan admitted, her frustration evident. "His lawyers are already claiming the warehouse raid was entrapment. Any evidence we gather illegally gets thrown out, and Vinny walks on technicalities." Bobby struggled to his feet, wincing as movement aggravated his injuries. "Then I'm going." "With Jackie?" "Absolutely not," Jackie said firmly but kindly. "This isn't your fight, Bobby. Maria would never forgive me if you got hurt trying to save her. She's family." Bobby's voice cracked with emotion and exhaustion. "I'm not sitting here doing nothing while some psycho—" "You're not doing nothing," Jackie interrupted, gripping the young man's shoulder. "You're surviving. You're healing. You're being the man she raised you to be." His expression softened. "Maria needs you alive and whole, not dead trying to be a hero." Sullivan's phone buzzed with an urgent text. Her face paled as she read the message. "We just lost surveillance on the Marin estate. All our cameras went dark simultaneously." "Inside job," Jackie concluded grimly. "Vinny's got more corrupt contacts than you realized. Even if we could get a warrant, any official assault would end with Maria's death," Sullivan continued. "Vinny's desperate now. He's got nothing left to lose except his freedom, and he'll kill her before surrendering." Jackie studied the estate photos with professional interest, his stunned experience translating into tactical assessment. High walls with embedded glass, motion sensors, guard patrols with dogs. multiple escape routes through the hills. He looked up at Sullivan. Your hands are tied by law. Mine aren't. Jackie, I can't officially sanction. You're not. Officially, I'm going home to rest and consider my options. Jackie's mild tone carried absolute determination. Unofficially, I'm going to remind Vincent Castellano why legends become legends. Sullivan held his gaze for a long moment, recognizing the futility of argument. How long do you need? Give me until dawn. If I'm not back with Maria by then, come in with everything you've got. Bobby grabbed Jackie's arm as he turned to leave. Bring her home. Please. I promise. Jackie said simply, the words carrying the weight of 50 years spent keeping impossible promises to audiences worldwide. As Jackie walked into the fog toward his rental car, Sullivan called after him. Jackie, what if it's a trap? He paused without turning back. Then I'll spring it properly. The command center watched him disappear into the night, a legend heading toward what might be his final performance. In 6 hours, the sun would rise on either Maria's rescue or Jackie's funeral. But betting against Jackie Chan had never been wise. The hunt was beginning. The Marin County hills rolled like sleeping giants beneath a crescent moon, their eucalyptus covered. Slopes hiding the fortress where Vincent Castellano felt most secure. Jackie's rental car wound through the narrow back roads, headlights off, engine running silent as midnight fog drifted through ancient redwoods. He parked 2 miles from the target, retrieving his equipment with practiced efficiency. Dark clothing replaced his civilian attire. Rope, lockpicks, and first aid supplies filled utility pockets. Everything else he'd need already existed within the compound, if he was creative enough to use it. The approach required 40 minutes of careful movement through dense forest, every step calculated to avoid detection. Decades of stunt choreography had taught Jackie to move like smoke, reading terrain and shadow with professional precision. Night birds provided natural camouflage for his passage, while security lights created a predictable pattern of blind spots. The Castellano's compound sprawled across a hilltop clearing like a medieval castle adapted for modern paranoia. The main house dominated the center, 3 stories of steel and glass designed to intimidate visitors and impress business associates. A guest cottage sat 50 yards away, connected by manicured pathways that would be beautiful in daylight, but treacherous under surveillance. Jackie crouched in the tree line, studying his target through combat-trained eyes. 12-foot walls topped with razor wire and embedded glass shards. Motion sensors positioned at regular intervals, their red LED indicators blinking like electronic eyes. Guard patrols moved in pairs with trained German shepherds, their routes timed with military precision. But Jackie had infiltrated movie sets more secure than this. His entry point revealed itself during the 3rd guard rotation, a section where an ancient oak tree's massive trunk created a natural blind spot in the sensor grid. The tree's canopy extended over the wall, its branches strong enough to support a man who understood leverage and timing. Jackie waited until the patrol passed, then moved with liquid precision. The rope appeared in his hands like magic, secured to the oak's trunk with knots that would hold his weight but release under specific tension. He climbed with monkey-like agility, muscle memory from countless action sequences translating into real-world application. The wall's razor wire required delicate navigation, but Jackie's costume department had taught him to work with hostile environments. His dark clothing provided protection while maintaining flexibility. Within 3 minutes, he dropped silently into the compound's interior garden. 2 Rottweilers approached with professional interest, their training evident in their controlled advance. But Jackie had worked with animal actors throughout his career, understanding that aggression often masked curiosity. He remained motionless, allowing them to investigate his scent while projecting calm authority. Easy, boys, he whispered in the tone that had charmed countless co-stars. I'm not here to hurt anyone. The lead dog, a massive male with intelligent brown eyes, tilted his head with almost human consideration. Jackie slowly extended his hand, palm up, offering respect rather than dominance. After a tense moment, the dog's tail wagged tentatively from the guardhouse. Radio chatter indicated the next patrol rotation in 20 minutes. Jackie had successfully penetrated the outer perimeter, but the real challenge lay ahead. 6 guards remained on active duty, plus whatever security systems protected the buildings themselves. Through the guest cottage's illuminated windows, he glimpsed Maria tied to a chair, apparently unharmed but showing signs of exhaustion. 1. Guard visible inside. 2 more patrolling the grounds. 3 manning the main house's security center. Jackie checked his watch. For 30 a.m. Dawn in 90 minutes. Agent Sullivan would launch her official assault whether he succeeded or failed, potentially triggering a hostage situation that could end with Maria's death. Time to remind Vincent Castellano that some kitchen helpers possessed very specialized skills. The legend was going to work that Jackie's assault on the compound began with the garage complex, where muted voices indicated 2 guards servicing vehicles for a potential escape. The building's interior revealed Vinny's paranoia made manifest. Armored SUVs, a speedboat on a trailer, and enough automotive equipment to outfit a small army. The guards, relaxed in their perceived security, never heard death approaching on silent feet. Jackie materialized between them like a martial arts ghost, his movements flowing from shadow to action with supernatural grace. The first guard, a heavy-set man named Paulie, found himself airborne, launched by a carjack that Jackie wielded like a medieval mace. Paulie landed in a pile of spare tires, unconscious but breathing. His partner, Rico, reached for his weapon but discovered that tire irons made excellent disarming tools when applied with 50 years of precision. The curved metal caught Rico's gun hand, sending his pistol spinning while Jackie's follow-up strike with jumper cables left the man twitching on the concrete floor. "Sorry about this," Jackie murmured, checking both men's pulses and ensuring their airways remained clear. Even enemy combatants deserved professional medical consideration. The pool house offered his next challenge. Through the glass doors, Jackie observed 2 off-duty guards playing poker, their weapons within reach, but their attention focused on cards and cash. Steam rose from the heated pool, creating atmospheric cover for his approach. Jackie's entry was poetry in motion. The sliding door opened soundlessly as he rolled into the humid space, immediately grabbing a pool skimmer and using its aluminum handle like a quarterstaff. The first guard, Jimmy Chun, according to his abandoned wallet, barely had time to register movement before the skimmer's net portion enveloped his head. The second guard, Murphy, attempted to dive for his gun but discovered that pool noodles, when wielded by a master, became surprisingly effective restraints. Jackie wrapped the foam cylinder around Murphy's throat in a sleeper hold, applying just enough pressure to induce unconsciousness without permanent damage. Both men slipped into the warm pool with gentle splashes, floating peacefully while Jackie ensured they remained face-up and breathing. Drowning wasn't in his moral code, even for criminals. The main house kitchen presented greater complexity. 2 guards sat at the breakfast bar, sharing coffee and discussing their boss's increasingly erratic behavior. Their conversation revealed useful intelligence. Vinny planned to move Maria to a boat at 6 a.m., then disappear into international waters. Jackie's entrance through the service door went unnoticed until he was already among them. The kitchen's professional equipment became an orchestra of improvised weapons in his hands. A rolling pin struck the first guard's wrist, numbing his fingers and sending his pistol clattering across the granite countertop. The second guard, faster and more experienced, managed to clear his weapon before Jackie introduced him to the versatility of hanging pots and pans. Cast iron cookware, when swung with martial arts precision, provided excellent non-lethal striking surfaces. The guard joined his partner on the kitchen floor, groaning but intact. The pasta strainer, held like a shield, deflected the third guard's rushed shot as he stumbled down from the security room. Jackie's counterattack involved a combination of kitchen utensils that would have impressed any culinary school: wooden spoons for joint strikes, a colander for temporary blinding, and a rubber spatula for the final indignity. As sirens wailed in the distance, either police responding to gunfire or Agent Sullivan arriving early. Jackie heard movement from the guest cottage. Vinny's voice, raised in anger, suggested the crime boss was preparing to accelerate his timeline. 5 guards neutralized. 1 cottage. 1 desperate criminal. 1 innocent woman whose life hung in the balance. Jackie approached the final confrontation with a large Rottweiler named Brutus following at his heels, apparently having decided that anyone who fought with kitchen utensils deserved canine loyalty. Some partnerships transcended species. The guest cottage windows glowed like stage lights in the pre-dawn darkness, casting long shadows across the manicured lawn where Jackie approached with Brutus padding silently beside him. Through the glass, he could see Maria tied to a wooden chair, her silver hair disheveled but her posture defiant. One guard remained. Pete Morrison, Detective Morrison's nephew. Young and clearly out of his depth, Pete paced nervously near the cottage's fireplace, his weapon drawn but his hands shaking. At 19, he'd taken this job to impress his uncle and earn quick money, never imagining he'd end up guarding kidnapped grandmothers while his boss planned murder. "I don't like this, Mr. Castellano." Pete's voice carried through the thin walls. "She's just an old lady. This isn't what I signed up for." "You signed up to follow orders." Vinny's voice snapped from somewhere deeper in the cottage. "Unless you want to explain to your uncle why you couldn't handle one simple job." Jackie studied the cottage's layout through the windows. Single story, open floor plan, multiple exit points, but limited cover. Pete's inexperience worked in Jackie's favor. The young man telegraphed his movements, checked his watch obsessively, and positioned himself where intimidation mattered more than tactical advantage. The entry required delicate timing. Jackie waited until Pete moved toward the kitchen area, then slipped through the unlocked patio door with liquid silence. A floor lamp became his first improvised weapon, its weighted base perfect for precise strikes. Pete never saw the attack coming. The lamp's cord wrapped around Pete's gun hand while Jackie used a sofa cushion to muffle the young man's surprised yelp. Within seconds, Pete found himself thoroughly restrained with curtain cords, conscious but immobilized on the cottage's expensive Persian rug. "Don't hurt him," Maria whispered as Jackie began untying her bonds. "He's just a boy. Been apologizing to me all night." "I won't," Jackie promised, checking Maria for injuries. Her wrists showed rope burns and she was dehydrated, but otherwise unharmed. "Can you walk?" "Better than I can run," Maria replied with remarkable spirit, accepting Jackie's help to stand. On unsteady legs, they moved toward the cottage door when applause echoed from the hallway. Vinny Castellano emerged from the master bedroom, no longer the polished crime boss, but a desperate man whose empire was crumbling. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his silver hair disheveled, his gray eyes carrying the wild look of someone with nothing left to lose. "Bravo, Sean, truly impressive. My entire security team defeated by kitchen equipment and pool toys." Vinny's gun was steady despite his haggard appearance. "But you're too late." Instead of the rage Jackie expected, Vinny seemed almost relieved. His shoulders sagged with exhaustion, his voice carrying defeat rather than defiance. "Feds are probably surrounding the place by now. My organization's finished. My reputation's destroyed." He gestured weakly with his weapon. "I've got nothing left except this moment." "Then surrender," Jackie said gently, positioning himself between Vinny and Maria. "It doesn't have to end in more violence." "Doesn't it?" Vinny's laugh was bitter. "You think prison's going to be kind to a man who tried to kill Jackie Chan? I'll be dead within a week." Maria stepped forward despite Jackie's protective gesture. "Vincent, there's always another choice. Always hope for redemption." "Not for me, sweetheart. Some sins don't wash clean." Vinny's gun lowered slightly, his finger relaxing on the trigger. Maybe I've done enough damage." The moment stretched between them, predator and prey, legend and criminal, the possibility of mercy hanging in the balance like morning mist. Then Vinny whispered, "I'm sorry it has to end this way." His hand moved toward a hidden switch on the wall. Vinny's finger found the hidden switch with practiced ease, triggering systems he'd installed for exactly this scenario. Steel security shutters slammed down over every window and door with the finality of a tomb ceiling, the metallic crashes echoing through the cottage like gunshots. Emergency lighting activated automatically, bathing the interior in hellish red, while ventilation fans began their deadly work. Jackie's enhanced hearing caught the subtle hiss that meant death was entering through the air ducts. Carbon monoxide, colorless and odorless, designed to eliminate witnesses while preserving evidence. "You see, Sean, I always plan for contingencies." Vinny's voice carried mock regret as he moved toward the cottage's far wall. "This place has a hidden tunnel leading to the boat dock. Built it when I bought the property, just in case." Maria gripped Jackie's arm as the first traces of gas reached them, the subtle sweetness that preceded unconsciousness and death. How long do we have? 10 minutes, maybe 12, Vinny answered before Jackie could respond. Behind a bookshelf, a hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow escape route that bypassed the cottage's poisoned atmosphere. You saved the old lady, Chan, but now you both die together. Jackie frantically searched for alternative exits while Vinny prepared his escape. The steel shutters were military-grade, designed to withstand explosive breaches. The walls were reinforced concrete behind decorative panels. Even the ceiling was steel-reinforced, preventing upward escape. I'll be in Mexico before your bodies are found, Vinny continued, stepping into his tunnel. The gas will dissipate naturally, making it look like a tragic accident. Jackie Chan, an elderly kidnap victim, succumbed to faulty heating system during rescue attempt. The hidden panel began sliding shut as Vinny disappeared into his escape route, sealing their tomb permanently. Jackie threw himself against the closing barrier, but the mechanism was already locked, his legendary strength useless. Against engineered paranoia, the gas concentration increased steadily. Maria sat heavily in the chair she'd been tied to, her breathing becoming labored as oxygen levels dropped. Jackie felt the first effects, slight dizziness, the beginning of cellular suffocation that would progress inexorably toward unconsciousness and death. I'm sorry, Maria, he whispered, kneeling beside her as the cottage became a gas chamber. I should have gotten you out faster. You came for me, Mijo. That's what matters. Her weathered hand found his cheek with maternal tenderness. You gave me back my faith in heroes. Jackie studied the cottage's construction with desperate intensity, his movie experience translating into architectural analysis. Gas systems required proper circulation, inlet and outlet vents to prevent dangerous accumulations. The emergency lighting meant electrical systems remained active. The steel shutters required hydraulic or pneumatic pressure to operate. Every system had weaknesses if you understood the engineering. Maria, I need you to trust me completely, Jackie said, helping her toward the cottage's center. We're going. Down. Down where? Through the floor. Gas systems vent upward. There should be cleaner air in the foundation space beneath us. Jackie began systematically weakening the cottage's flooring, using Pete Morrison's unconscious form and the available furniture to concentrate weight on specific structural points. The cottage had been built for luxury, not structural integrity. The subfloor was standard construction, not the reinforced concrete of the walls. By redirecting the gas pressure itself and applying leverage to load-bearing joints, Jackie created a controlled collapse. The floor gave way with a splintering crash, dropping them into the cottage's foundation crawl space. The air was marginally cleaner, buying them precious minutes, but they were still trapped in Vinny's tomb. Above them, gas continued to flow while steel shutters remained sealed. Time was running out, and escape seemed impossible. Jackie held Maria in the darkness beneath the cottage, listening to the sound of their own breathing growing more labored with each passing second, in the suffocating darkness beneath the cottage. Jackie held Maria as their breathing grew increasingly labored. The foundation crawl space offered only temporary reprieve, cleaner air that would soon be contaminated as the gas seeped downward through gravity and circulation. I can't feel my fingers, Maria whispered, the carbon monoxide beginning its insidious work on her elderly cardiovascular system. Jackie, I need to tell you something. Save your strength, Jackie urged, but Maria's weathered hand found his face in the darkness. I knew who you were from the first day, she said softly. The way you moved, the kindness in your eyes. I've watched your movies for 20 years, ever since Antonio got sick. When the world felt too dark, you gave me light. Jackie's throat tightened with emotion. Maria, after Antonio died, I stopped believing in heroes. Stopped believing good could triumph over evil. Then you walked into my kitchen, and suddenly an old woman remembered what hope felt like. Her voice carried profound gratitude despite their circumstances. You didn't just save my diner, Mijo. You saved my faith. Jackie felt tears on his cheeks as he studied their prison with professional desperation. The foundation space was concrete and steel, designed to support the cottage's weight. But gas systems required external venting to prevent exactly this kind of accident. Environmental regulations demanded safety measures even in criminal enterprises. His fingers explored the foundation walls, searching for the intake systems that fed Vinny's death trap. There, a large vent grate near the cottage's eastern corner, where external air entered the circulation system. The grate was steel mesh, but the mounting hardware was standard construction. "Maria, I'm going to try something dangerous," Jackie said, helping her to the cleaner air near the external vent. "Trust me one more time." Using techniques learned from countless stunt sequences, Jackie began systematically dismantling the cottage's own infrastructure. The gas system's pressure could be redirected if he could access the main circulation hub. The electrical systems. Emergency power could be overloaded to trigger safety shutdowns that he found the main gas line running through the foundation, a sealed system designed for controlled distribution. But Jackie remembered physics lessons from elaborate action sequences. Pressure seeks the path of least resistance. If he could create a new path, working with desperate precision, Jackie used debris from their fall to create leverage points. Around the gas line's junction box, the cottage's own weight became his tool, redirecting structural stress onto the gas system's weakest point, the pressure release valve that prevented explosive buildup. "What are you doing?" Maria asked, her voice growing weaker. "Fighting fire with fire," Jackie replied, applying calculated force to the junction box. "Vinny's paranoia is going to save us." The pressure release valve yielded with a metallic shriek, venting the cottage's entire gas supply directly into the foundation space. For a terrifying moment, the concentration spiked dramatically, but Jackie had positioned them at the external vent where fresh air still entered. The sudden pressure differential created a chimney effect, contaminated air rushing out through the broken valve while cleaner air flowed in through the external vent. Within minutes, the deadly atmosphere began clearing, but they were still trapped beneath a sealed cottage with steel shutters and no visible escape route. Jackie studied the external vent with growing hope. The opening was barely large enough for human passage, but it connected to the cottage's exterior. Freedom lay just beyond the steel mesh and 15 feet of horizontal ductwork. "Can you crawl, Maria?" She managed a weak smile despite their circumstances. "For you, Mijo, I'll crawl through hell itself." Jackie began dismantling the vent grate with improvised tools, knowing Agent Sullivan's deadline was approaching. Dawn would bring either rescue or a tactical assault that might collapse their fragile refuge. Time to prove that legends earned their reputation through more than just movie magic. The impossible escape was about to begin. The external vent grate yielded to Jackie's determined assault, its steel mesh peeling away like gift wrap under the systematic application of leverage and decades of practical problem-solving. The opening beyond was barely 18 inches square, cramped even by stunt double standards, but wide enough for human passage if motivation was sufficient, and rescuing Maria provided all the motivation in the world. "The ductwork leads outside," Jackie explained, helping Maria position herself at the opening. 15 feet through horizontal space, then we'll be free." Maria studied the narrow passage with remarkable calm. "I haven't crawled anywhere since I was 6 years old." "Just follow my voice," Jackie assured her, testing the ductwork's structural integrity. The metal was solid but not designed for human weight. They'd need to distribute their mass carefully to avoid collapse. "Think of it as the world's most important prayer tunnel." Maria's laugh was weak but genuine. "Antonio always said I was too stubborn to die easily." Jackie went first, his compact frame navigating the ductwork with practiced efficiency. Decades of squeezing through impossibly tight spaces during stunt sequences had prepared him for exactly this scenario. Behind him, Maria followed with determined courage, her breathing labored but steady. The passage seemed endless in the claustrophobic darkness. Jackie's enhanced spatial awareness, honed by years of precise choreography, kept him oriented toward the external opening. Every few feet, he paused to ensure Maria remained close behind, her quiet determination echoing through the metal tube. "Keep talking to me, Mijo," Maria whispered, her voice strained by the physical effort. "I need to hear something besides my own fear." "When we get out of here," Jackie said, continuing his steady crawl, "you're going to teach me your recipe for that breakfast burrito Bobby loves. The one with the secret ingredient you won't tell anyone." "Paprika," Maria replied immediately. smoked paprika, and a touch of cinnamon. Been guarding that secret for 15 years. Consider it payment for the rescue, Jackie said, relief flooding through him as natural light appeared ahead. The ductwork's external terminus, where freedom waited. The opening emerged behind a decorative bush 20 yards from the cottage's sealed entrance. Jackie helped Maria through the final passage, both of them collapsing onto the dew-soaked grass with exhaustion and gratitude. Dawn was breaking over the Marin Hills, painting the sky in shades of hope and survival. "We made it," Maria gasped, her elderly frame trembling from exertion, but her spirit unbroken. "We actually made it." Jackie checked his watch, 5:47 a.m. Agent Sullivan's deadline was 13 minutes away, but they were free, alive, and together. Behind them, the cottage remained sealed, its deadly atmosphere slowly dissipating through the breach they'd created, but movement in the distance caught his attention. The distinctive silhouette of Vinny's Escalade racing down the hillside road toward the marina. The crime boss had emerged from his tunnel system, believing his victims were dead, and was proceeding with his escape plan that Jackie's phone had survived their ordeal. Agent Sullivan answered on the first ring. "Jackie, thank God. Status report. Maria's safe. We're both free. But Vinny's heading for his boat at the marina. Black Escalade. Maybe 5 minutes ahead of us. FBI boats are already moving to intercept," Sullivan replied. "But if he reaches international waters, he won't," Jackie said with quiet determination, helping Maria toward his hidden rental car. "This ends today." As they reached the vehicle, Maria gripped his arm with surprising strength. "Be careful, Mijo. Men like Vinny, when they're cornered, they become most dangerous." Jackie nodded, starting the engine as pursuit became the morning's new imperative. Behind them, smoke began rising from cottage's compromised ventilation system, evidence of their impossible escape. The final chase was beginning, and legends were about to be tested one more time. The winding road to Tiburon Marina carved through morning fog like a ribbon of destiny, Jackie's rental car eating up the distance while Agent Sullivan coordinated pursuit through his phone's speaker. In the passenger seat, Maria gripped the door handle with white knuckles, but said nothing, understanding that some battles required speed over safety. "Visual on the Escalade," Jackie reported, glimpsing black chrome through the mist ahead. "He's pushing hard for the marina. FBI boats are 20 minutes out." Sullivan's voice crackled with urgency. "Local Marine patrol is closer, but Vinny's yacht can outrun anything they've got." Jackie downshifted through a hairpin turn, his rental car's modest engine protesting the pursuit demands. Ahead, Vinny's more powerful vehicle disappeared around another curve, but Jackie knew these roads from location scouting years ago. Every blind corner and dangerous straightaway burned into memory. The marina appeared through lifting fog like a maritime dreamscape, dozens of boats bobbing at their slips while early fishermen prepared for morning runs. Vinny's Escalade screeched into the parking area, its occupants spilling out with desperate urgency. But surveillance revealed a nightmare complication that froze Jackie's blood. Bobby Martinez stood on the yacht's deck, his hands zip-tied behind his back, his battered face showing fresh bruises. Vinny's corrupt police contacts must have intercepted him during FBI transport, providing the crime boss with renewed leverage just when his situation seemed hopeless. "Son of a bitch," Jackie breathed, pulling into the marina's observation area. With clear sight lines to Vinny's slip. Through binoculars, he watched Vinny board his yacht with Bobby in tow, the young man's courage evident even in captivity. The boat was substantial, 45 feet of fiberglass and steel designed for both luxury and extended ocean travel. International waters lay 12 miles offshore, offering sanctuary from American justice. "Jackie, do not engage," Sullivan's voice carried official authority. "We have tactical teams en route. Wait for backup." But backup meant Bobby would be in international waters within 30 minutes, beyond rescue and facing certain death once his usefulness ended. Through the binoculars, Jackie watched Vinny position Bobby near the yacht's railing, visible to shore observers, but vulnerable to accidental drowning if any rescue attempt went wrong. The tactical nightmare was perfectly calculated. Any direct assault risked Bobby's life, while allowing Vinny to escape guaranteed it. Marine environments offered no cover for approach, No environmental advantages for creative combat, no easy solutions. Patricia, Jackie said quietly, remember what you told me about official limitations. Jackie, don't. 12 minutes, he interrupted, studying the marina's layout with professional intensity. Give me exactly 12 minutes, then move in, regardless of what you see. Maria reached across the car to squeeze his hand. That boy risked everything to protect me. Bring him home, Mijo. Jackie kissed her forehead with paternal tenderness, then stepped into the morning air. The marina stretched before him like an elaborate movie set. Boats, docks, construction equipment, and countless environmental opportunities for someone creative enough to use them. Vinny's yacht began maneuvering away from its slip, diesel engines rumbling with power and purpose. Bobby remained visible on deck, his young face showing fear but not surrender. The boy had learned courage from watching Legends, and now Legend would return the favor. The construction crane dominated the marina's expansion project, its boom extending over the very slip where Vinny was casting off. Early morning workers hadn't arrived yet, leaving the equipment unguarded and operational. Jackie smiled as a plan formed. Part stunt sequence, part tactical assault. Entirely impossible by conventional standards. But conventional standards had never applied to Jackie Chan. The final rescue was about to begin, and physics was about to become poetry in motion. Time to remind everyone why some legends transcend the movies that made them famous. Jackie sprinted across the marina's construction yard with fluid precision, his decades of stunt choreography translating into real-world application. The construction crane loomed like a mechanical giant, its boom extending over the exact slip where Vinny's yacht was gaining speed toward open water. The crane's operator cab was unlocked. Construction crews trusted their equipment in the isolated marina. Jackie's fingers flew over controls learned during countless movie sequences, bringing the massive machine to life with surprising delicacy. The boom swung outward as Vinny's yacht cleared the slip, its timing perfect for what Jackie had planned. Through the crane's windows, he could see Bobby on the yacht's deck, the young man's eyes widening with recognition as he spotted his rescuer. 50 feet above, Vinny remained focused on navigation, his attention split between steering and watching for FBI boats on the horizon. Jackie activated the crane's cable system, lowering himself toward the moving yacht with acrobatic grace. The steel cable became his zip line, his body cutting through salt air like a human projectile aimed at justice. The yacht's speed worked in his favor, creating relative motion that helped him land precisely on the cabin roof just as Vinny realized. His escape was compromised. Welcome aboard, Jackie announced cheerfully, dropping through the yacht's sunroof with signature style. The yacht's cramped interior became an instant battlefield. Vinny's 3 remaining crew members, muscle borrowed from partner organizations, converged on Jackie with desperate violence. But confined spaces had always been Jackie's specialty, turning limitations into tactical advantages. The yacht's galley provided immediate weapons. A coffee pot became a precision striking tool. Cabinet doors transformed into shields and levers. The narrow passages that should have restricted Jackie's movement instead funneled his opponents into predictable attack patterns. Sorry about the mess, Jackie apologized to the first gunman, using a life preserver to deflect gunfire while simultaneously entangling the shooter in emergency rope. The man stumbled backward into the yacht's fishing chair, thoroughly restrained by his own equipment. The second attacker tried using the yacht's confined space for grappling, but discovered that nautical equipment made excellent improvised weapons in trained hands. A fishing net, deployed with martial arts precision, left him thoroughly immobilized while Jackie moved toward the yacht's bridge. Bobby had managed to position himself near the yacht's stern, using his zip-tied hands to operate the emergency radio. Mayday, mayday. This is motor vessel Breaking Bad. We have been boarded by. Vinny's backhand sent Bobby sprawling across the deck, cutting off his distress call. But the transmission had lasted long enough for Coast Guard triangulation. Help was coming whether Vinny reached international waters or not. The third crew member tried rushing Jackie from behind, but the yacht's emergency equipment included fire axes that, when wielded properly, could disarm attackers without permanent injury. The man joined his colleagues in temporary unconsciousness, leaving only Vinny himself. Jackie systematically disabled the yacht's navigation systems, while maintaining perfect balance despite the vessel's erratic movement. Vinny's desperate steering created chaotic motion, but Jackie had performed stunts on moving vehicles for decades. A yacht was merely another stage for his particular brand of controlled chaos. "You can't save everyone, Chan," Vinny screamed from the bridge, his voice cracking with hysteria. "Even if you stop me, there are others. This never ends." "Maybe not," Jackie replied, helping Bobby to his feet while cutting his restraints with a galley knife. "But it ends today for you." Through the yacht's windows, FBI boats appeared on the horizon like cavalry arriving at the perfect dramatic moment. The marina fell behind them as the disabled yacht drifted in increasingly choppy waters, its engine smoking from Jackie's systematic sabotage. Vinny stood at the yacht's wheel, cornered and desperate, with nowhere left to run and everything left to lose. The final confrontation was seconds away. The yacht's bridge became a gladiator arena as Vinny Castellano faced the legend, who had systematically destroyed his empire. Outside, FBI boats closed the distance while Coast Guard helicopters appeared on the horizon. But inside the cramped wheelhouse, only two men mattered: predator and protector, criminal and hero, the final accounting of justice. "You destroyed everything," Vinny snarled, his expensive suit torn and stained, his gray eyes wild with the desperation of a cornered animal. 40 years building my organization, and you tore it down in 3 days. "You destroyed yourself," Jackie replied calmly, positioning himself between Vinny and Bobby, who nursed his injuries near the yacht's stern. "I just helped people stand up to a bully." Vinny laughed bitterly, reaching for a flare gun from the emergency kit. "Bully? I was protecting these neighborhoods, providing order, security, jobs for people who needed them. You were feeding on them like a parasite. And what are you, Chan? Some savior sent from Hollywood heaven." Vinny's voice cracked with hysteria as he waved the flare gun erratically. "You think this makes you a hero?" Jackie's expression remained patient, almost pitying. "Heroes don't make themselves, Vinny. They're made by the people they choose to protect." That's when Vinny revealed his final, devastating truth. "You want to know about protection? About the people you're saving?" His laugh was genuinely unhinged. "Now, Antonio Santos didn't die from cancer, Chan. He died from a heart attack after my boys visited him. Drugs in his medication, nice and clean. The old bastard refused to pay protection, so I made sure his wife would be more cooperative." The words hit Jackie like physical blows. Maria's husband, the gentle man in the photographs, the foundation of everything she'd built, murdered for refusing to bow to Vinny's extortion. For the first time in their confrontation, Jackie's legendary restraint cracked. The flare gun discharged as Jackie moved with fury-driven precision, but the projectile went wide, punching through the yacht's fiberglass hull above the waterline. Jackie's counterattack was no longer the careful, apologetic combat he'd shown throughout their conflict. This was raw, righteous anger unleashed with 50 years of accumulated skill. Vinny tried to use the yacht's confined space to his advantage, grabbing a boat hook as an improvised spear. But Jackie had transcended technique into something primal and absolute. The boat hook became kindling in his hands while Vinny found himself lifted and slammed against the yacht's instrument panel. That woman spent 5 years mourning a husband who died protecting others. Jackie's voice carried biblical wrath as he systematically dismantled Vinny's defenses. She blamed herself for not being strong enough to save him. Every strike carried emotional weight. For Maria's tears, for Bobby's broken nose, for every small business owner who'd paid tribute to avoid Vinny's violence. The yacht's equipment became instruments of poetic justice as Jackie demonstrated. Why legends endure while criminals fade, but even in righteous fury, Jackie maintained his moral code. When Vinny collapsed, beaten but breathing, Jackie checked his pulse and ensured his airway remained clear. Justice required accountability, not execution. Bobby limped forward, staring at the defeated crime boss with mixture of satisfaction and pity. "Is it over?" "For him, yes," Jackie replied, his breathing heavy from emotional and physical exertion. "For people like him, there's always another one waiting." Through the yacht's windows, FBI boats surrounded them while helicopters provided aerial coverage. The immediate danger was over, but the weight of truth remained. How much should Maria know about her husband's real death? Some victories came with impossible choices, and heroes had to live with the consequences of both action and mercy. The legend had triumphed, but at what cost to the family he'd sworn to protect? The FBI boats surrounded Vinny's disabled yacht like protective guardians as Coast Guard helicopters circled overhead, their rotors churning salt spray into rainbow mists beneath the morning sun. Jackie sat on the yacht's deck beside Bobby, both men exhausted from their ordeal but alive, whole, and victorious. Vinny lay unconscious but stable near the yacht's stern, zip-tied with his own restraints while Agent Sullivan's tactical team secured the scene. His empire was finished, bank accounts frozen, lieutenants arrested, corrupt officials facing federal charges. The protection racket that had terrorized Chinatown for years was finally broken, but Jackie felt no satisfaction in the victory. Vinny's revelation about Antonio Santos burned in his chest like acid, the weight of terrible knowledge threatening to destroy the peace he'd fought to preserve. "You're going to tell her, aren't you?" Bobby asked quietly, reading Jackie's expression with new maturity earned through shared trauma. About her husband. Jackie studied the horizon where San Francisco's skyline emerged from lifting fog. She deserves the truth, but some truths cause more pain than healing. "Marie is stronger than you think," Bobby replied, his swollen face serious despite his youth. "She survived losing him once. She can survive learning how it really happened." Agent Sullivan approached as paramedics checked both men for injuries, her professional demeanor masking obvious relief. "Medical clearance first, then debriefing. The district attorney wants to discuss your testimony personally. This case is going to make national headlines." "What about Maria?" Jackie asked. "Safe at the hospital, treated for gas exposure and dehydration. Demanding to see you both every 5 minutes." Sullivan's expression softened. "She's remarkable. Most people wouldn't have survived what she went through." The boat ride back to shore felt surreal after the morning's violence. Vinny remained unconscious, his breathing steady but his face showing the accumulated damage of confronting a legend. His crew members nursed various injuries while federal agents documented evidence that would ensure decades of prison sentences. At the marina, media trucks waited like hungry vultures, their cameras tracking every movement as Jackie helped Bobby onto the dock. The story was already spreading. Jackie Chan rescues kidnapped family from organized crime syndicate. Hollywood legend becomes real-life hero, but Jackie deflected every question, focusing reporters' attention on the real story. The heroes are the ordinary people who stood up to bullies. Maria Santos, who refused to pay extortion. Bobby Martinez, who protected others despite the personal cost. Lucy Wong, who kept a family business running under impossible pressure. The drive to the hospital passed in contemplative silence, both men processing the morning's events. Bobby dozed fitfully, his body finally accepting rest after days of crisis. Jackie wrestled with the moral weight of knowledge. How much truth could love bear? At the hospital, Maria waited in her room like an anxious mother, her relief visible the moment they appeared in her doorway. "Mijo, Bobby, thank God you're both safe." She embraced them with fierce maternal love, her small frame somehow encompassing both men in protective warmth. "It's over? Really over? Vinny's going to prison for the rest of his life," Bobby confirmed. "The whole organization is finished." Jackie sat beside Maria's hospital bed, studying her weathered hands that had built a life from nothing, survived devastating loss, and maintained hope through decades of struggle. She deserved peace, not more grief, but she also deserved truth. "Maria," Jackie began carefully, "there's something about Antonio you need to know." Her eyes met his with the wisdom of a woman who had suspected more than she'd admitted. "Tell me, Mijo. Whatever it is, I can handle it." Outside her window, San Francisco sparkled in morning sunlight, a city where legends walked among ordinary people and sometimes extraordinary justice prevailed. The hardest conversation was about to begin. Point 1. Week later, federal courthouse steps buzzed with media activity as Jackie emerged from his final testimony session. Cameras clicked like mechanical rain while reporters shouted questions about his role in dismantling the Castellano organization. But Jackie's attention remained focused on the real story, the community that had found its voice inside the courthouse. Vincent Castellano had accepted a plea agreement to avoid the death penalty. Life in federal prison without possibility of parole his empire liquidated to compensate victims, his corrupt network facing their own lengthy sentences. Detective Morrison and his nephew Pete had turned state's evidence, their cooperation ensuring the protection racket's complete destruction, but Jackie felt no satisfaction in Vinny's downfall. Justice required accountability, not vengeance, and the real victory lay in what had been preserved rather than what had been destroyed. The Golden Dragon Diner's reopening celebration 3 days earlier had drawn 3 generations of Chinatown families, each wanting to show support for the woman who had refused to surrender her dreams to criminal intimidation. Local news crews had covered the story, but the real emotion happened between the cameras, in quiet conversations, grateful handshakes, and the simple act of ordinary people reclaiming their neighborhood. Maria had surprised everyone with her reaction to learning the truth about Antonio's death. After Jackie finished explaining Vinny's confession, she had been quiet for a long moment, her weathered hands folded in her hospital bed sheets. "I always knew," she'd finally said, her voice steady with hard-won peace. "Antonio was too strong, too stubborn to die quietly from cancer. When the doctor said heart attack, I suspected, but I couldn't prove anything, and I had to survive." The revelation had freed her from 5 years of self-blame, allowing proper grieving for a husband who had died protecting others rather than succumbing to disease. Antonio's sacrifice had meaning now, context that transformed senseless tragedy into heroic choice. Bobby's medical bills had been anonymously paid by someone who understood the cost of standing up to bullies. His broken nose healed perfectly, leaving only a small scar that he wore like a badge of courage. The business scholarship to complete his degree came with a condition that he use his education to help other small businesses resist exploitation. Lucy Wong had been promoted to assistant manager, her 20 years of loyalty finally receiving official recognition along with increased responsibilities and salary. The diner's sudden fame brought new customers and renewed community support, ensuring financial stability Maria hadn't enjoyed in years. Jackie himself had become a regular customer rather than an employee, no longer hiding his identity, but treated as family rather than celebrity. The corner booth became his unofficial office, where he signed autographs for children while discussing business plans with Bobby and sharing coffee with Maria. "The reporter wants to know about your next movie." Lucy called from behind the counter, waving a message slip from a Hollywood trade publication. "Tell them I'm researching family dynamics," Jackie replied, watching Bobby serve customers with new confidence while Maria greeted regulars like the neighborhood matriarch she'd always been. "It's a long-term project." The diner's atmosphere felt different now, stronger, more confident, secured by the knowledge that community could triumph over intimidation when people chose to stand together. Regular customers returned not just for familiar food, but for the reassurance that some places remained safe, some values still mattered, some fights were worth winning. Outside, San Francisco's Chinatown bustled with renewed energy. Other business owners, inspired by Maria's example, had begun refusing illegitimate demands and reporting criminal pressure to authorities. The protection racket that had poisoned the neighborhood for years was finally broken, replaced by genuine community cooperation. Jackie studied the Golden Dragon's reflection in his coffee cup, seeing not just a successful restaurant, but a symbol of what ordinary people could accomplish when they refused to surrender their dignity to fear. The legend had found his most important role, not movie star, but family member. Some performances lasted a lifetime. 3 months later, the Golden Dragon Diner hummed with the comfortable rhythm of a neighborhood institution that had not only survived its trial by fire, but emerged stronger. The early autumn afternoon brought its usual mix of customers: elderly couples stretching their social security checks for weekly date nights, young professionals grabbing late lunches between demanding jobs, and 3 generations of families maintaining traditions that spanned decades. Jackie sat at his usual corner booth, signing autographs for a family of tourists while their grandmother whispered in Mandarin about how this was the place where Jackie Chan fought the gangsters. The story had grown in the telling, as stories do, but the essential truth remained. Sometimes legends walked among ordinary people, and sometimes justice wore an apron. Maria moved through her domain with renewed confidence, her silver hair catching afternoon light as she greeted customers by name and inquired about grandchildren, new jobs, and small victories that comprised real life. The trauma of kidnapping and near-death had settled into quiet strength, the knowledge that she had faced evil and survived, making everyday challenges seem manageable. Bobby approached Jackie's table with practiced efficiency, his server uniform replaced by business casual attire as he balanced his final semester at SF State with increased responsibilities at the diner. The scholarship to complete his degree had opened doors he'd never imagined, but he remained grounded in the lessons learned through bloodshed and courage. The food critic from the Chronicle is coming Thursday, Bobby announced, setting down Jackie's usual order, green tea and Maria's breakfast burrito with the secret paprika blend she'd finally shared. Lucy's already planning the menu presentation. Nervous? Jackie asked, amused by the young man's obvious excitement. Terrified, Bobby admitted with a grin. But the good kind of terrified. The kind that means you're doing something that matters. Lucy Wong supervised the lunch rush with military precision, her promotion to assistant manager evident in her confident delegation and strategic planning. 20 years of loyalty had finally received proper recognition, and the diners increased. Business provided financial stability that allowed investment in staff and equipment rather than mere survival. The atmosphere carried the warmth of genuine community, customers who knew each other's stories, staff who treated work as family obligation, and the comfortable understanding that this place would endure whatever challenges arose. The Golden Dragon had become more than a restaurant. It was a symbol of resistance against those who preyed on the vulnerable. At 3:30 p.m., the familiar disruption began. A young punk named Derek swaggered through the front door with his girlfriend, their loud conversation and aggressive posturing immediately shifting the diner's energy. Derek spotted elderly Mr. Petrov at his regular table, quietly reading his Russian newspaper over black coffee, and saw an easy target for intimidation. "Hey, old man," Derek called out, his voice carrying the casual cruelty of someone who had never faced real consequences. "That's my booth. Move." The diner fell silent. Other customers looked uncomfortable but hesitant to intervene, the eternal bystander dilemma playing out in real time. Derek's girlfriend giggled nervously, sensing the tension but unable to read its significance. Mr. Petrov looked up from his newspaper with dignity intact, his accented English clear and calm. "I am sorry, young man, but this table is occupied." Derek's face flushed with the rage of someone whose authority had been questioned. He stepped closer to the elderly man, his body language promising escalation that would shatter the diner's peaceful atmosphere. Jackie observed from his corner booth, his slight smile suggesting some people never learned, and that legends never stopped being ready to teach important lessons. He stood slowly, approaching the situation with familiar calm, his voice carrying gentle but unmistakable authority. "I think there might be a misunderstanding here, son." Derek turned toward the voice, sensing something dangerous in Jackie's gentle tone and the sudden quiet that had fallen over the diner. The young man's girlfriend tugged at his sleeve, whispering urgent warnings, but Derek's pride demanded he save face. For a moment, he studied Jackie's mild expression and relaxed posture, seeing only a middle-aged man in casual clothes. Then, his eyes widened with recognition and growing terror as he realized exactly who had just offered him a chance to reconsider his choices. We don't actually need that booth," Derek stammered, backing toward the door with his girlfriend in tow. "Lots of other places to eat." As they fled, Mr. Petrov raised his coffee cup in a grateful salute, speaking in perfect Russian before switching to English. "Spasibo, my friend." "Thank you." Jackie responded in equally perfect Russian, then settled back into his booth as normal conversation resumed around them. The guardian angel remained hidden in plain sight, ready for whatever came next, protecting a community that had learned to protect itself. Maria appeared at his table with fresh tea and a knowing smile. "Some lessons are worth repeating, aren't they, Mijo?" Jackie nodded, watching through the window as Derek and his girlfriend hurried down the street, hopefully having learned that respect was not optional and some people still believed in standing up for what was right. "Some lessons are worth repeating," he agreed, settling back into the comfortable rhythm of family life. "And some families are worth protecting forever." Outside, San Francisco's Chinatown continued its eternal dance of commerce and community, A little safer because one legend had chosen to care about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The Golden Dragon Diner served its next customer, and life went on. Some stories never really end. They just find new ways to continue. If you like the story, please watch another story on our channel and subscribe to the channel.